They branded me a parasite, a leech who lived off others while giving nothing in return. In their eyes, I was dead weight. My younger sister, on the other hand, was painted as some kind of saint, the golden child who, they claimed, sent thousands each month to support them, the one who took care of our parents from afar while I supposedly freeloaded right under their roof. What they never realized was that every penny they praised her for actually came from me. I gave quietly, without seeking recognition, without asking for thanks. My only goal was to keep peace in the family. In return, I was met with insults, humiliation, and eventually eviction from the very home I had been helping to sustain. They thought that would shatter me. They expected I'd come crawling back, desperate to be accepted again. They couldn't have been more wrong. What followed didn't just change them, it changed me. Because betrayal doesn't always destroy you. Sometimes it wakes you up. This is the story of how I lost my family but found my strength. My name is Rachel. I'm 28 years old and have lived with my parents for most of my life. After graduating college, I secured a full-time job, started saving, and quietly contributed to the household. I paid certain bills, helped where I could, and never caused trouble. Still, nothing I did was ever good enough for them. They constantly held me up against my sister, Vanessa. She had moved to another city years ago, and to hear my parents tell it, she was the definition of success. Vanessa is doing amazingly, they would gush. She sends us $9,000 every single month. Look how caring and accomplished she is. I would smile and nod each time. What they didn't know was that Vanessa wasn't sending that money. I was. 2 years earlier, Vanessa had called me in tears. She'd lost her job and was drowning in debt. She begged me not to tell our parents. She was terrified of disappointing them. So I made a choice. I started transferring $9,000 to my parents every month, but under her name, to protect her. I thought I was doing something good, something selfless. But as time went on, my parents' treatment of me only worsened. They began calling me lazy, a freeloader who contributed nothing. One night, my mother said, "You should be more like your sister. She takes care of us. You just take up space." Something inside me shifted. I didn't cry. I didn't argue. I simply asked, "Are you absolutely certain Vanessa is the one sending that money?" My father chuckled and said, "Don't be jealous, Rachel. Some people work hard. Others just sit around and complain." That was the moment I decided I'd had enough. Without another word, I packed my bags and walked out that same night. I also stopped sending the $9,000. The aftermath was almost predictable, almost. I moved into a small studio apartment. It wasn't glamorous, but it was mine. For the first time in years, my life was quiet. No backhanded comments. No forced smiles. Just space to breathe. I didn't tell Vanessa I had cut off the payments. I figured she'd discover the truth soon enough. I was curious how long she could maintain her charade without my support. 2 weeks passed. Then 3. After a month, the phone calls began. First, my mother left a voicemail, her voice trembling. "Rachel, have you talked to your sister? The money didn't arrive this month. Maybe something's wrong. Please call her." I ignored it. A few days later, my father called. "Vanessa isn't answering us. The bills are piling up. We relied on that money." Again, I stayed silent. Then, one evening, my phone lit up with Vanessa's name. I let it ring once, but when she called back immediately, I picked up. Her voice was low, almost frantic. "Rachel, Mom and Dad are freaking out. They found out I wasn't the one sending the money. I told them you'd offered to help a few times, but they don't believe me. They're furious at both of us." I felt no sympathy. "Did you tell them the truth?" I asked. She hesitated. "Not all of it." A cold knot formed in my chest. "So now you're trying to make it look like I just wanted them to love me more." Her silence told me enough. I had protected her for years, taking their insults while she soaked up their praise. And now she was twisting it against me. That was the moment I decided this wasn't over. They thought I was weak. Soon they'd see how wrong they were. A week later, everything blew up. My cousin Megan texted me. "Are you okay? Your parents are on Facebook saying awful things about you. They claim you tricked them and left them in debt. What's going on?" I opened the app and saw my mother's dramatic post about betrayal, implying I'd stolen from the family and ruined them financially. The comments were full of pity for them and condemnation for me. Ungrateful. That's what they called me. Ungrateful. I had covered their rent, utilities, and groceries for 2 years. And because the money stopped, I was suddenly a villain. I decided it was time for the truth. I posted, "Since my name is being dragged indirectly, here's the full story. For 2 years, I've been the one sending $9,000 a month to my parents, under my sister Vanessa's name, because she asked me to protect her while she was unemployed. I paid without asking for recognition. But after being called a freeloader, a burden, and being thrown out, I stopped. I don't regret helping. I only regret staying silent while they destroyed my worth to worship a lie. I attached screenshots, payment receipts, bank transfers, email confirmations. No emotions, just facts. Within an hour, my post had over 2,000 shares. Then something unexpected happened. Vanessa went live on her own page. Her eyes were puffy and red. She was visibly shaking. "I never wanted this to happen," she began. "Rachel is telling the truth. I'm sorry for letting her take the blame while I stayed quiet. I lied to our parents. I let her look bad when she was the one keeping them afloat." Her video spread quickly. My parents never addressed it publicly, but through relatives, I learned they were devastated, not just by being exposed, but by the fact that no one in the family wanted anything to do with them anymore. They lost their money, their image, and their support network in one blow. And I finally gained my freedom. Everything had collapsed for them at once, and for me, that was only the beginning. Once the truth came to light, my life took a completely unexpected turn. A local talk show that featured people whose stories had gone viral invited me to speak. During the interview, the host asked, "Rachel, what went through your mind when your own family threw you out, knowing you were the one financially supporting them?" I kept my expression calm. At first it hurt, but eventually it was liberating. You quickly learn who values you when the money disappears. The audience applauded. That appearance opened doors I had never imagined. A nonprofit dedicated to helping young adults escape abusive or toxic family situations reached out to me. They offered me a position as their financial literacy coach, and I accepted without hesitation. For the first time in my life, I was being recognized for my own merit, not as someone's daughter, not as Vanessa's sister, but simply as myself. I moved into a bright, modern apartment in the city. It wasn't over the top, but it had sunlight pouring through the windows, a quiet atmosphere, and a balcony where I could sip my coffee without hearing anyone call me a leech. One afternoon, my phone rang with an unfamiliar number. "Hello, is this Rachel Taylor?" a steady voice asked. "Yes," I replied cautiously. "Who's speaking?" "This is Harold Benson. I'm an attorney calling in regard to your grandfather's estate." I straightened in my chair. "My grandfather passed away almost a year ago. What about his estate?" "There was a sealed inheritance clause in his will that could only be opened after certain conditions were met. Those conditions have now been fulfilled." My heart pounded. "Miss Taylor," he continued, "your grandfather left behind an estate valued at $750,000. The clause stated that the inheritance would go to the grandchild who demonstrated the greatest selfless dedication to the family without seeking recognition. Based on recent legal findings and public records, your sister and parents are no longer eligible. The entire estate is yours." I was speechless. It wasn't simply the money, it was the validation. My grandfather had seen me, even when no one else did. When I hung up, I sat there in silence for several minutes before a slow smile formed on my face. The very family who had discarded me had lost everything they wanted, and the daughter they shamed had inherited it all. The news spread faster than I anticipated. Within 2 days, it had reached my parents, not because I told them, but because the internet had done it for me. A cousin shared my interview. Another posted the official inheritance notice from the attorney's office. It wasn't long before my mother reached out. "Rachel, we need to talk. Can we meet for coffee? Just the two of us." This, from the same woman who had tossed me out like trash. I didn't reply. The next day, my father called. "Rachel, listen, we made mistakes. We didn't know the full story. Your mother and I were under a lot of stress. We shouldn't have said what we did." I let him speak without responding. He added, "Vanessa told us she's moving in with a friend. She says she needs space. We feel like we've lost everything." That part was true. A few days earlier, Vanessa had sent me a message of her own. She apologized again, genuinely this time admitting, "I don't expect you to forgive me. I just want you to have the life you deserve." I respected her honesty, but I had no interest in reopening that chapter with her or anyone else in my family. Instead, I met with my attorney and made a deliberate choice. Using a portion of the inheritance, I established a charitable fund in Vanessa's name, dedicated to helping young women who had suffered financial abuse and emotional manipulation. The media quickly caught on, nicknaming it the Rachel Taylor Fund, giving voice to the silenced. I didn't inform Vanessa beforehand. She found out the same way everyone else did. Her response came in a short message. "You're the bigger person, Rachel. I don't deserve this, but thank you." I never replied. Meanwhile, my parents were left to live with the fallout of their own actions. No emotional statements. No heartfelt letters. Only silence, the same silence they had given me when I needed love the most. Months passed, and peace finally became my normal. I woke up each morning without that familiar weight pressing on my chest. I made breakfast in my sunny kitchen, volunteered at the charity, and spoke at workshops for women who had endured the same cold betrayal I had. At events, people began to recognize me. "You're the woman who supported her family in secret for years, right? You're the one who turned betrayal into empowerment." Yes, that was me. One morning, while tending to the plants on my balcony, my lawyer called again. "Rachel, your parents have been making inquiries. They've requested a court-mediated family reconciliation meeting. They're not pursuing legal action yet. They just want to see if you'll attend." I let out a small, humorless laugh. After everything, the shaming, the exploitation, the abandonment, they wanted to stage a public act of healing. "I'm not interested," I said flatly. "Please inform the court that I decline. I owe them nothing." That was the last time I ever heard from them. By the year's end, I received one final piece of news. The house I had once called home had been foreclosed. They had defaulted on the mortgage. Vanessa had moved to a small town, working a modest but steady job keeping to herself. As for me, I was featured in a leading financial magazine under the headline, "From Rejected to Respected, Rachel Taylor's Rise from Family Betrayal to Independence." When I read it, I didn't cry. I didn't feel anger. I felt nothing but freedom. Because I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was thriving, and I had no intention of ever looking back.